Love you, Linda. Love you.
The courthouse the other day in the hallway, you're singing "Oh Happy Day."
One word prayer. Justice, where are you?
And welcome. Justice Serve TV is on the air. Michael Bryant here. Hello, Linda Kenny Bodden.
Hi, I'm Linda Kenny Bodden. Yes, right here. You just told my lines. If we were reading for the Oscars, that would be like, what would that be like? We called it. You went over my lines.
I have no idea what you're talking about. But
you never have no idea what I'm talking about.
That's true. It's okay. A 50-50 chance.
Queen Olive, Ruth Ann, new member. Okay, well, welcome.
So we have a great show, a super guest that you guys know very well, and we've been following the Doug Weinstein case out of Liberty County, Georgia. It is a freak show, and I've been trying to drive people to it through Katt Not Williams' site because she does a great job in streaming it and talking about it.
I was there all day.
Yeah, it's great. And today had a couple of lulls, but a couple of zingers as well. We're going to get into all that with her, but first. Okay, just a little business on the rip and read front. Do you want to start?
Yeah, I lost my hearing there. My first one actually is Gillan Maxwell. Headline. Okay. Now, we don't know if this headline is right, although Adam Classfield's the one reporting it. We know Adam is a very good reporter. Gillan Maxwell cleared to leave prison on work release report. Okay, that goes along with,
Is that just a step in the direction of clemency or commutation or pardon?
Or telling us all the lies we want to hear so we can let you out, whatever it is. It sounds like it. Gillan, though, we'd love to talk to her. I mean, I'd love to talk to her, and I'd love to talk to her family. I'm a defense attorney, remember. I met her attorney who tried her case, by the way, when I was at the Harvard trial advocacy workshop, Bobby. We sat I asked a couple questions, but she really wasn't talkative about the questions I asked. So I would love to speak to the family. I'd love to speak to Gillan. I'd love to speak to the family. You know, we've had Mark Epstein on a number of times.
I will. Before you move on, full disclosure. Obviously, I'm pretty close to somebody who did a little Netflix thing, Gillan Maxwell, the Filthy Rich Project. I can only tell you, unofficially, and not. Don't write this down. There's going to be an event coming up early September, directly related to her and the survivors. That's all I can tell you. Okay, go ahead.
Well, hopefully by then we'll have solved something. You want me to do my second rip and read? My second rip and read?
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I'll do a second rip. I'll get a 3 or 4 of them here. This was actually from yesterday. This goes to Norfolk County, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Department of State Police. This was the Internal Affairs report for Proctor. I haven't had time to read it, but one day we're going to have to probably do a whole show on it because you can't really rip and read it. Well, you can rip it, but it's 15 pages, so
really easy to rip.
It's out there if you want to know. This is my rip and read. This is a rip and read. This was how did this get here? Sophia Loren. She was in my.
Is she all right? Is she okay?
She's fine. Somebody told me I look because of all the fashion we do and the makeup we do. Remember, everyone wants to have to do a little bit of fashion. I am doing the one earring tonight. That this probably came up, and I think my lipstick kind of looks like her. And thank you very much for sending me that. I really appreciate it. And then I have a 4th rip and read. You're not going to believe this.
Okay.
This not going to believe it. This is actually. I just sent this to because tomorrow we're going to be in Massachusetts, or you are, and tomorrow night our guest is going to be Auntie Deb. So Auntie Deb is doing. Jimmy's going to be doing the big interview of Aidan Carney, and there's a big to do going on in the internet. I'm trying to stay out of the drama right now. Quite frankly, I don't have time. As you know, I've been in federal court. I'm going to be in federal court, and I'm going to be like for the next 3 weeks. I'm like, I can barely see straight. All right, as you can see, but. Remember our shopping, guys, and everybody. Our shopping. Our I tell you about the lightning deals, and everyone's keeping their computer open. Well, there was a lightning deal that came up. Joy and 30 pieces rubber ducks, $14.42. 30 pieces of rubber ducks. So I actually sent it to Jimmy. I think he's got too much stuff. But you know what? They're following us. They're following us here on Amazon because why
because
would
they've come up with this.
Ducks come up with my lightning deals?
Is this a Colin Albert signature special? Is he connected somehow to this with the rubber duckies?
You know, if you want to if you want to get 30 rubber ducks and put them all over the place, maybe.
And what's the price of 30 rubber ducks, by the way?
$14.42. It's got 36% of the people have claimed it about a half an hour.
Sounds like a scam to me. I don't know. I've not been checking the market on rubber ducks, but that doesn't sound like oh my God, I got to get these. That doesn't motivate me to push any buttons.
You know me. I've been telling everybody about my lightning deals. My $349.
I will buy your earrings $349. That to me, that's like, whoa, that's a deal.
And my husband asked me the same thing that everybody else asked me yesterday. Where's the decimal? I said $3.49. It was.
Yeah. You want to make sure there was a decimal point in there. I understand. Okay, a couple of things for you. Norfolk County continues to just amaze at the inept nature of the Morrissey DA office. Today there was the continuation. Some people thought, oh my God, Proctor. You had Proctor on your little note there earlier, but Proctor's going to testify again. More on that. The whole issue with that. It's at least 3 cases: the Brian Walsh case, DeSantos, I think his name is, Johnson, and of course the Miles King. All of them are kind of connected through the horrible process that has been created by the DA's office, and that is, what do we do with this information the federal government collected? That's the information that went into the Karen Reed case that sunk Proctor's ship, all of his personal texts. That's how they got all that stuff. Well, now all these other folks have cases in which they're representing defendants who want that same stuff. The feds said 30 days after the end of the Karen Reed case, you got to destroy that. So time's ticking. And they got an extension of 30 days. Well, that 30 days is up Monday. And today, just today, Commonwealth files a motion to intervene so that they can somehow control what's going to happen to that material. And the whole hearing today just blew up into, what do we do with these conflicting federal cases versus state cases and the defendants' interests? Because if the Commonwealth had not played, varsity level hide the ball, this wouldn't be a problem. But that's what they've done. And so these defendants don't have this information. It's still in limbo. There are cases pending. Today, the court decided not to do much of anything, really. They've pushed it till this Thursday at 2 o'clock. There's going to be continued argument on it. And the Commonwealth's position is, we can't even give you a copy of our motion to intervene, which lays out why they think they should be able to do that. We can't do that. Our legal department, the Commonwealth's legal department.
What are they? Pornography? I mean, what are they protecting? Pornography?
And this is just the moving papers.
So right, I know. It's like when the feds, when you have a client that's indicted for pornography, they can't give you a copy.
Well, that makes perfect sense to me. I get that. But, this may be pornographic only in the way they do their jobs. Well, that's obscene. There's no doubt about that. But anyway, that's where it is hanging at the moment. And this motion to intervene suggested that the whole matter for all these cases be told until they can handle the issues related to this important information. It may or may not be exculpatory. Remember good old Rule 14. The court is saying, well, state, Commonwealth, you have to comply with Rule 14. They're saying, well, the feds have done these other things that prevent us. What was interesting today? Laura McLaughlin, she was on the Karen Reed prosecution team. She's seen all of this. And she's now in this weird position representing the Commonwealth in the Brian Walsh case. She's already seen it. And she feels like, well, I'm not sure I can tell people what I've seen or what it is because of this overriding federal order. So it's a mess. It's a first-class joke. And unfortunately, it's not surprising. On the other hand, the Karen Reed matter, remember she was making a motion to, and it's dumb, she has to do this, get her car back, get her 3 or 4 cell phones. I think there were 4 ultimately. The court has agreed, rubber stamp that order. Give her shit back.
I can't wait to see what it's like, because now we're going to have an issue of money and how much it's worth,
and what the repair costs are going to be,
and maybe what they withheld, because you know what? Now they can have their experts go through and see what really. What was his name? How soon we forget.
Which one?
Welcher? No, not Welcher. Welcher we know.
Burgess?
He charged $700 for the Blue Man, Burgess, Shannon Burgess. Shannon
and there's some
Burgers,
interesting stuff on that. The emails that were finally released by the FOIA request, 4,100 pages or whatever, from Morrissey. We're going to hit some of those tomorrow as we set up for the hearing at 2 o'clock. We'll be on the air at 1. We'll go through some of those emails, which are a joke. and really expose Morrissey for the buffoon that he is. So that'll be tomorrow. Today we have. I'm just gonna bring this young lady right on here, and I'm gonna move her into the middle. Boom.
Hi guys.
Hi, with a Justice Serve TV hat. Whoa, I feel like super person. The hat.
I know. I wish I had a green shirt to match, but I don't have much green besides Justice Serve merch.
How are you?
I'm doing so well. How are you guys?
Are you tired? You know, you're doing these marathon shows.
Katt Not Williams, in case you don't know. I mean, she's like, I was watching it this morning. I left the house here this morning at 8:15 for an appointment. I came back. She was on the air. I mean, I had it behind me the whole time. You never stopped. You were like, I was like, let's see, I had 2 cups of matcha tea and dirty matcha coffee, another one. I'm thinking to myself, did you have intravenous matcha? You were just going.
No, I start with an iced coffee in my Justice Served tumbler.
Oh, nice.
Which really keeps stuff cold, guys. So if you drink iced coffee, I totally recommend the tumbler. Yeah. It stays super cold. But no, I really enjoy doing it. It just gives me life.
You're fabulous.
So before we get into the guts of this case, let's talk about you. How did you get into this? Longtime true crime fan. You're in the witness protection program. I mean, what's your connection to this material?
I'm more into the law side. I started reading a bunch of filings in post-conviction work. So the appellate level, everything's written. Weren't really that many streams or places to go to look at coverage of paperwork or to get the documents. So it was just something I did research on my own. And then different cases would come about that I would see people would be interested in. They didn't have a way to access certain documents. So I'm getting them anyway. Let me just start sharing them over on Twitter, over on Facebook. And YouTube was a bit of an accident. I started doing some uploads of things that were harder to find for the Depp v. Heard civil trial in Fairfax, Virginia, but didn't really plan on having a channel. And then eventually it just picked up. Yep.
Yeah. Well, Depp versus Heard that was a good one to dip your toe into, because as we all know, that thing it took on a life of its own. I know Law and Crime quadrupled their viewership during the course of that trial, and so people could not get enough of it.
Yeah, well, I was on the air during the verdict, and I think we had close to 4 million viewers during the verdict time at that point, and just like you couldn't keep up. You couldn't even read. You know how we sort of read the comments here. They were just going like, "Ooh," couldn't even read them. They were just going so fast. So many people everywhere.
And so this, let me take it back one step. You're interested in all this legal stuff. Were you trained, in the law or what?
No. So I've worked in like the probate space, helping people figure out what to do when families fighting over assets. So I think that was a bit of the background on, it was a nationwide service, and it was, county courthouses. This is before COVID and everyone started trying to go digital, trying to figure out how to contact the clerk or who would actually have the right documents for you to make a move when, someone passes away, house is facing foreclosure because no one's making the payments, but there's usually an administrator or someone assigned as an executor to the estate, but they have no idea what to do. So I got good at figuring out how to navigate 3,000 different counties around the country.
Wow.
I think that just gave me, looking at records for criminal and civil cases outside the probate space. Okay. And I really think the lack of transparency, and the difficulty and cost of procuring documents, it's kind of like a passion project to be interested in covering legal, entertainment, the overlap in between.
That's so right. How come? Can I ask where you are physically? Can we do that?
Oh yeah, I'm in Cocoa Beach, Florida.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
So if there's a random storm that comes through and the power goes out, it's the Florida weather doing its thing.
Yeah, it would be every afternoon and evening this time of year, right? Yeah.
This feels like it.
Okay. Linda, any more personal questions before we jump into this case?
No, except I once had a client who came in and he was in the witness protection program, and my staff was like, "Are you kidding us?" And he really was. We thought first initially maybe he was a little bit cuckoo. He really was in the witness protection program. And the problem is he wanted to sue for discrimination, for age discrimination, for being terminated. And I said, well, you really can't sue for age discrimination while you're in the witness protection program, because it's going to lead to, like discovery will stop at a certain point and then the judge is going to dismiss your case.
So was it his new persona or his old persona that was being discriminated against?
His new persona.
His new persona?
Yeah, but he really was. He was. I mean, I ended up seeing the documents because I had to see the documents, and he really was in the witness protection program.
No.
Never had that before. I probably never will.
Yeah, I would think not. So, Katt, you would know that this case has kind of one of those alternative ID elements, right? Mr.
Who
Starr.
is Jim?
Mr. Stark. Well, I wasn't even thinking about it. I haven't gotten to Jim McIntyre yet, but we will. But Mr. Stark is also, like, what's the deal? He put himself, this is for those who haven't been following this, and you really should because it's going to be over in a heartbeat. They could be the closings Thursday, right?
Yeah.
Maybe even tomorrow.
The state might rest or should officially have arrested. Tracy Sands was their last witness officially, right?
I don't think that they're calling anyone else. Maybe they made a different decision, but they didn't rest before the jury was sent out today.
Yeah, interesting.
So they might have forgotten, though.
Doug has suggested basically he's put on his case through cross-examination, so we don't expect anybody coming in. Has that changed?
Not that I've heard since.
So Doug, if you're out there lingering, just send us a note.
Come on in. Yeah.
Come on in.
I know he said he hasn't made the decision yet about whether or not he plans to call his client, but he's not going to call his client.
No, of course he's not.
First of all, after just listening today from this, I mean, everyone knows I try to teach a little bit of the law. When you call your client to the stand, nothing else good that you've done by creating reasonable doubt matters. The case only comes down to calling your client to the stand, only comes down to your client. And in some cases, you have to do that. Self-defense cases, you can't avoid it. Yeah. Sometimes if you have an innocent client in a child molestation case, you must do that. They must hear you testify. But if that's not the situation and you've created some reasonable doubt, you never call your client to the stand.
And of course, there are always exceptions.
Right,
I call the Jimmy Scanderto exception.
Well, that was one.
Which does fit into the fact pattern of this case. I don't know, Katt, if you remember that case. This was a guy who was charged with the murder of his father and his dismemberment. And he took the stand.
In Florida.
In Florida. Of course it's in Florida. And and so he takes the stand. People kind of like this guy. And as I say often, Scanderito is my favorite kind of Dorito. And so this guy testifies, and he beats the murder rap, but he does get convicted of mutilating a corpse. I think is the official charge there. So people believe he didn't kill his father. That was some sort of heart attack based on their crazy drug use on a given night. But he freaked out, thought he'd be blamed, cuts his dad up. I mean, the discussion he has over cutting his dad to pieces, how he was doing out in the garage. He had some tarps. Just like matter of fact as you can get. And yet, I could see people saying, I don't know if he did it or not, but he should go down for the murder.
But remember he said, cutting a body up.
That's exhausting.
Harder than you could imagine. It's exhausting.
He had to stop, take breaks.
He take cigarette breaks. And then the best part was, I don't have it, but he had a silver, he said it was a silver platter. It was a silver hors d'oeuvre platter full of cocaine. And that's how my father died. I'll never forget that. An hors d'oeuvre platter full of cocaine.
Yep.
But I think that's interesting because there's definitely a different feeling when, well, how did this person die? Why would they kill them? And if you can't explain why somebody would kill them, sure, you don't have to provide a motive. But if you're not filling that gap in for me, and, in the Jim Kassotis case, I think we have maybe an impact to the back of the head. We don't know if it was how exactly when or what tool was used to cause it. If it was
post-mortem or not, it's hard to tell. We don't know, right?
And then the state ends up making a showing of a bloody futon cover that's at the headrest point.
And they don't test the blood.
Well, they're not testing, but you're trying to make the jury envision that something happened with a wall and the spatter, but there's a futon piece of furniture. What if she accidentally, if somebody hits their head accidentally and passes away from it, someone comes across that body and freaks out that they're going to be incriminated. They're going to look at they're going to look at me. They're going to think I unalived this person. I murdered this person.
And that's what happens a lot in drug overdose cases when people are doing drugs together, all of a sudden somebody does it, they're going to unalive, I'm going to get charged for this. So they take the dead body out and they put them somewhere, right? Because they don't want to be charged for it. As a matter of fact,
that's the Scanderto case.
The cabin we bought in the woods, this quiet little place up in the Catskills in Sullivan County, after we moved in there, they said, oh, did you know about the dead body in the ditch down the street here? And literally there's 5 cabins in the middle of the bear country. No, and what it was somebody was a builder, one of the kids building a house, and they were doing drugs up there, and one of them overdosed, and the other kids who were helping building dumped the body in the ditch because they didn't want to be charged with homicide. So that can happen.
Okay,
and there's an element there when you're surprised. The dumping, the disposing is often rushed, unplanned, and easier to spot, to come across. It's not like some grand scheme where I'm going to make this untraceable.
Right. Near my house, near my cabin, where nothing happens because it's a sleepy little town.
You mean the snake den?
Yeah, the snake den, the bear den. There was a Airbnb down the street, and a couple was like out for the morning walk on the Airbnb.
Okay, wait a second. Hold on here. All right, as we can see, Doug has weighed in. There will be no witnesses tomorrow. No witnesses for the defense.
Come on in, Doug. Come on. I know you had the link. Come on in. Come on in, Doug. It's all good. All good. We're being kind. We're being kind. I have a whole list of things that you did so right, and that the deer in the headlights. Do we have our deer in the headlights picture?
Oh, you want that now? You're calling for that now? Oh my God, I'm not ready.
Okay. There's a deer in the headlights. You're not ready.
I think the chat should guess what witness.
What witness is this? What witness?
And this is such a long process for me to get to it. There it is. Okay.
I took this picture. Okay. This is the picture
Here,
of a deer.
I'll get as close as I can. So
it's a she deer, though. So it's a she deer. Okay. I didn't take a picture. There was no little picture with one little thing. It's a she deer. But yeah, all I could think about and the witness, everybody. Come on. The witness. What witness is it?
Are you waiting for somebody to raise their hand?
Yeah. Like you, Michael.
I don't know. Is it Tracy Sands?
Yeah, right.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Deer in headlights at the very end. I mean,
I've been working on my impression. Here, goes something like this. And scene. He just has a weird affect when he's sitting there, kind of a half smile, and his eyes are just darting. His head doesn't seem to move. It's weird. It's very weird.
Yeah.
I would hate to be the witness that they call just for the purpose of introducing interviews, and you have to sit up there the whole time the thing is playing.
Yeah, and that was his role the first time they called him for the first audio interview with Nicholas Kassotis. So let me ask you, as somebody who's been following this, you could probably be sitting at one of the council tables. You've been following this so closely and advising them. What do you think? Yeah, I have a note on Jim McIntyre. We'll get to that. What do you think, if you were in the jury box, what is screaming out to you as either a question unanswered or evidence that makes up your mind for you?
I would say it's the knowledge gaps, and I think the knowledge gaps work in the defense's favor, of course, because if you're left wondering about anything, that by definition is a doubt. But why would Nicholas Kassotis, because we're dealing with malice murder and felony murder with the underlying ag assault. Why, in that moment, why would he have maybe wanted to harm her, maybe not kill her, but wanted to harm her in a way that turned lethal? Or why would he be intending to kill her? What's the reason? Because it seems like they were both doing monetary things together, things for their own financial gain. They both misled others to borrow money. And the state even told us in opening, they were on the run together. So why would you kill your Bonnie to your Clyde? Where did that switch?
One of the things I find most interesting about the case is that either Mindy Kassotis was a dupe and just believed what she was told by Nick Kassotis, or it was true. I mean, it has to be one or the other. There is no evidence suggesting she thought it was untrue, right? All of these different stories about being, Jim McIntyre coming after them and they're in danger and we need to have security and we need to have these cameras. We need to be on the run. I need to change my name. All of those things she clearly believed, right? Yep. So either they're true or Nicholas Kassotis just told her whatever he wanted to and she believed it all? What do you think?
I'll say Linda or me.
Oh, you.
I think that's you. That's you.
Yeah.
Oh, so for me, I think when this started, that's what I figured. You have Nicholas Kassotis convincing his wife of things, and wife is relaying what she believes, but didn't witness firsthand, to her family members and her friends. But as the state is calling witness by witness that knew Mindy personally, we hear repeatedly, well, Mindy said she was doing this, or Mindy did this, or Mindy described a situation where apparently Wayne Kassotis, Nicholas's father, he shows up to the house with the brother, who's Nicholas Kassotis' uncle, and there's some violence, some excitement, some fight or altercation. And Mindy said she was scared and went to into the bedroom. But this is Mindy telling a story from a first-person experience. It's not just her believing what someone else is telling her and then relaying it to somebody else.
Right. That became very clear.
And it really corroborates the rest of the tale, you know.
Right.
In a weird way that still doesn't make sense.
I know. Doug, by the way, doesn't have a JS Tumblr. We're going to have to get him one. Doug, get it. Come on, get it. Get your link on.
Extorting us for a Tumblr.
And speaking about the mother, Michelle says the Kopp brother didn't react as I expect he would. The family has a weird dynamic. How does that play out then, Katt?
Well, what's interesting about the brother is we only have weird mentions of him through the testimony. So whole family at some point is living. And let me step back. I'm not trying to place judgment on anybody, but typically when I hear there's a first, second, third, fourth, I do assume that the family at some point is maybe, from wealth. They're from wealth if they're maintaining the passing down of the name. That isn't always the case. But we're hearing these stories of family members are moving in with Frank IV, who's the son of Frank III and Betsy and the brother to Mindy. Frank is married. I think we heard mention of his wife being pregnant at some point. So it's a newlywedish couple. They're starting to have a family of their own, but yet adult siblings, parents, and parents' bonus child are moving in and out of this house. And then suddenly they all have to move for some weird story based on this security team that Mindy and Nicholas are both telling the family about. The parents pay for 2 separate 1 weeks each in different hotels. And then they all move in an Airbnb for what seems to be June 2002-ish. And then they hastily move out by December 13th, 2022, when her torso is found on December 2nd. All of them just move out with no explanation.
It's weird. The whole thing is weird. And to me, the thing about him, whether or not he had a malice intent to kill her, and Doug hit it. Doug, I hope you're still here because you said to be kind, and I'm not only being kind and telling the truth. No life insurance on her. What we normally hear?
Yeah.
Let's see. There's $1 million debt we owe to wife number one, or $1.5 million debt we owe to wife number one, who got
that's
married.
Too easy, right?
Right, the day after. And there's no life insurance. There's and forget the fact there's no murder weapon. Forget the fact there's futon with 2 people's blood on it. The blood's not tested. Forget the fact that fingernail scrapings weren't tested. Forget the fact there was no searching of the for the husky tubs and all. Forget the fact the house was only searched 6 months later. Forget the fact the wipes at the scene were not processed. Forget the fact that the cigarette butts weren't processed. Forget the fact they couldn't find any power tools with blood on them. I could go on.
Or even the purchase of any,
or the purchase on it. And what really got me, they didn't know the difference between Medicare and Medicaid. All right. The cop who knows all, who knows everything about this case, he didn't know the difference between Medicare and Medicaid. Medicaid is what she was clearly on because they were poor. And then he says, well, he assumes the states are linked. Oh no, they're not linked because they have different rules of who qualifies.
Yeah, he thought that because there were some liens on the payments being made that they were somehow and there was no way to really dispute that. You'd have to get somebody in there from the program to talk about how it works and how they're interactive. And don't even get me started on Medi-Cal. Medi-Cal, that's the California version of Medicaid because they want to get clever. So yeah, all of these financial issues to me led me to believe, this guy may be a con man. He may rip people off. He may even take advantage of his family members financially because there's so much money being talked about and apparently never repaid and no plan to repay. So what? I mean, that's bad. But will the jury hold that against him in the absence of evidence that gets them to murder and dismemberment?
Well, what do you make of this mention of $32 million? I don't know if everyone picked up on it, but it was something that was mentioned in the interrogation, in the interviews with the police. That would have been in May of 2023. And then it's also, we hear about it on the stand, and I think you guys are going to play some of that. But
yeah, I
with
do
this
have some
mention
of
of
that.
a large sum of money, $32 million, and there's questions, right? Doug does press her about it. We don't actually know, was he just testifying that he had $32 million because he wanted to be macho and
That's right.
say whatever, or did he actually have that money? Because the state is in a catch-22 here, because they're trying to keep evidence on the record that I think sets up the alternate theory that Doug is trying to get the jury to consider. If we found out today that he and Mindy both together borrowed $198,000 from someone that they had known for the years. Nicholas knew her longer, but Mindy became a friend. They were doing dinners together. They borrow a $198,000 loan from Cameron Nelson and her husband. They don't repay it. They're actually active litigation to try to recover that money right now. And then you hear a mention of $32 million. Well, if you believe him that he's testifying that he had all this money and he only has $300K from a Sony rights purchase to a short story, are they scamming hundreds of thousands of dollars out of other people? And this person that's missing their $200,000 is going the civil route to recover it. But could that not create a scenario where you owe someone $1 million and something ugly happens?
Yeah, I thought she was a very interesting witness.
She was.
Her stoicism was amazing to me, because she starts talking about mundane things. And I have to say, the prosecution has a habit. Who's the male prosecutor? His name's escaping me at the moment. He does less of the questioning than the woman. But anyway, he's questioning this witness, and he goes into, basically, what do you do now? What does your husband do? Oh, he has restaurants. Well, what's the name of the restaurants? Mushroom pizza or something. I was waiting for him to say, could you please tell the jury what the specials are for the week? I mean, he was really getting into details that I'm just wondering where and why. But
where are they located? Well, there's one here. There's one
where,
here.
What are the hours?
Here,
what do you got? So she was an amazing witness. But then it turns to this money thing, which Doug picked up on his very tight cross, and that's a pretty good motivation, right? To be a little annoyed at the current defendant because he owes you a couple $100,000 and you've been scammed by this guy.
Yeah, and maybe scammed by her too. I mean, that's the thing here. And then you have possible all these other people that could kill her, right? Not just the husband. They have all these vehicles that are on this logging road, all these logging trucks and all these cars and Mr. Deer in headlights. Well, I looked for hours. Did you take any
look for the redheaded man? Like they said, they drove to find a redheaded man or something. Like it was just so bizarre. What are you doing?
Right.
And Doug made a good point. I think we'll get to some of this. Maybe we'll see how it goes. But he, the detective, the GBI guy says, yeah, we found 50 Jim McIntyres. And oh, wait a minute, hold on. I think in our backstage, I have Jim McIntyre. Hold on, let me bring him on. No, I'm just kidding. So if they have 50 Jim McIntyres across the country, he looks for one that happened to show up somewhere near a hospital that the defendant was in or near, and then that was kind of the end of that discussion. And so Doug makes the point, well, did you look at any of these other I think he called them less convenient McIntyres, and of course they did not.
The scattered McIntyres.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so hard if I'm on the jury, I feel like I'm getting to the brink of something, and then the prosecution doesn't come through.
How about the fact that he doesn't kill any of his other wives? I mean,
that's nice,
because you're not talking about the Peterson, the cop in Illinois, who
right.
Every wife seems to have died. You're not talking about that. I mean, so, but he looks different. What do you think about the fact he looks so different in his interviews, Katt, than he does when he's sitting there today? He's very trim and slim.
Thinner. He's on the prison diet.
Well, yeah.
I was gonna say, on the outside, we know that he's been in custody, but I wonder, sitting there as a juror without knowing that, if it would just pop into my head that perhaps he's been in custody this whole time, or is he losing this because he's stressed out, or what is it exactly? I'm not sure if I didn't know outside information, if I would really have the same speculation about the loss of weight.
Yeah, it's funny. Jurors, they get more and more sophisticated, and you just wonder. Certainly in the voir dire, I'd be asking, how familiar they are with the criminal process, and they can't get into punishment, things like that in their deliberations, but they could make those kinds of assumptions, like, well, yeah, this is a murder case. He's probably not out bopping around, right? But we don't know. I would definitely want to know from folks that I was seating. Well, what do you know about this process? Okay, let's do a little bit of this.
Just before you start
yes.
that, Michael, I just want to make one point because I want you all to listen to this. When you had the lead detective on, he supposedly required all this, stuff.
You're about to say a legal word.
Yeah, all this stuff. Now, we don't get dinged for that anymore. Went to the lab, but nothing was tested. And he said, well, he requested it to be tested. What the fuck are you doing as a lead detective if you don't know what's being tested or getting things tested? I'm sorry. That is a word I'm not getting dinged for, because I would be saying,
I'm dinging you. I'm personally dinging you for that.
You're personally dinging.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely true. I mean, and that's, to me, that was just ridiculous. I mean, if you're going to
all of the things that weren't done are shocking. They really
shocking. Absolutely shocking. It's not only shocking that she's dead, it's shocking that she's dismembered, but it's shocking that this investigation may be equally inefficient, shall I say, as the recent ones we've seen in Massachusetts.
Okay, Katt, one of the things I was curious about was this whole name change. And, when I heard that it was Stark was the new name, and I know one of the stories was that it's a family name, I, of course, thought of Tony Stark, Iron Man. That's Iron Man's name. And it was here is a little bit of back and forth on where that came from. This is Heather Thomas on the stand. First of all, as somebody of my generation, when I hear Heather Thomas, I think Fall Guy, the actress in that, but that's a different story. So this is Heather Thomas, the first wife of the defendant, and she's on the stand. This is direct.
Why he changed the name?
No.
Are you familiar with the last name of Stark?
It made me think of the Game of Thrones character, frankly.
And who is that character?
It was one of the main characters that was probably, I think, killed first.
Did you and the defendant watch the Game of Thrones during the time you were married?
Yes.
Okay, so there's the answer to that theory. This is Game of Thrones. You remember this? Jon Stark in the first season was the badass. He was loved by all, always did the right thing, right? And so that's where the name comes from. So is it from a fiction? Is it from the family? What does the jury do with that information? Is it made up because this whole alternate personality thing is made up?
I don't know, because then there's these other records with the marriage certificate. And again, these are things that are being highlighted by the state. They're trying to show he's sketchy because he's changing his name. And I'm like, yeah, that is sketchy. Why would you do that? But then the names end up seemingly matching something. Like, we end up hearing that he filed a report against Wayne Kassotis, and that is his dad's name, when he needs to get this incident reported about someone coming over to the Airbnb property. Then we find out about the Foxes on the marriage certificate, the application for the marriage certificate from the testimony with the third wife, Samantha. And then he was going by More Fox as his pen name. So it's like, there's overlaps. And it's like, it's not moving the needle that much for the state in a bubble. But at the same time, if you ask me who's Jim, and then you remind me that Nicholas's middle name is James, and he's picking, all these other names come from a relic of somewhere else. Well, now I'm wondering, if Jim is made up, is it just because your middle name is James? How did we get there? And
that was one of the questions I asked Doug when we talked last Friday, when he interrupted my floating in the pool, so I had to get on and do the interview. And I said, are you concerned, that the jury might think this guy's a fiction writer, want to be, pick your favorite fiction novelist, and this is just yet another story. And of course, honestly, Doug said, yeah, I mean, you just don't know. But that's certainly a very plausible thing hanging out there that does not help the defense.
Agreed. I think the knowledge gaps aren't, I think there's two things at play here. What is happening, what happened to Mindy is heinous. It's, something that's hard not to visualize when you think about it. And if this jury feels like this is their only chance to get justice for Mindy, which I know that's not the way they're supposed to think, but at the same time, you've got to,
It's a reality. We see it. right?
And this is their only chance. This is the guy, and he's sketchy. Well, then I think that's it might be easy for them to tick the boxes. But then on the other hand,
it's wrong. It's just wrong. But to say that it doesn't happen is naive.
And then on the flip side, if they disagree with the investigation and just think that the burden isn't met, they might still think like, hey, we think this guy did it, but maybe we don't think that the state met their burden here. I mean, I think a huge issue is they don't look at the surveillance footage from the pump station, the filling station, outside of that November 29th timeframe. They could have actually paid attention to the cars. They see all these cars going in on the 27th and 28th, but they don't take that footage and say, hey, let's look. We don't know if they even look for that Ford Explorer on an earlier day. Well, it'd make a little bit more sense to me if we're supposed to have all these body parts spread across. And Doug did a great job highlighting the satellite imagery from Agent Bernie. Look how expansive of a piece of land this is. It's much bigger than what you're telling us, right, Detective Sands?
It's what is it, 10,000, 15,000 acres? It's huge, right?
And the word I heard was the 3 mile. It's
3
like spread
mile,
across this mileage.
Okay.
But then he's only there for 30 minutes. And they don't know they can't tell us where she was dismembered. But they want us to say, oh, this knife was found here, as if that's supposed to be tied to the dismemberment. What else would the knife be for at that point?
And remember, when you have animal activity, and animal activity will go from where, if there's a bloody part, they'll go in and grab where there's a bloody part, and they'll take the bones away, and they could take them 3 miles away. But there's a lot of them that are 3 miles. That's the problem. It's not just, it's not just like 1 or 2.
And maybe tool marks can be confused with animal marks.
That's right. They don't have a tool mark exam. And tool mark is a really iffy thing anyhow. It's one of those soft sciences, any comparative science where you're comparing, relies on a compare. You and me, we look through our microscope. Oh, yeah, we think we see the same thing. It's a big issue. It's been a big issue.
And there's variables.
And variables. And
Doug pointed that out on Cross.
Right.
With the tool mark expert and the size of the saw blades and the false starts and all. I learned a lot about cutting bones up.
Against my will.
Yeah, sometimes. So here's a little bit of Doug on Cross of Miss Thomas. I think we actually get to see her. We didn't see her in that other little blurb here.
For you, your divorce from Nick Kassotis was final on October 15th, 2015, correct?
That's correct.
When did you get married to your husband, to Anthony Thomas?
Yeah, October 16th.
The very next day?
Yes.
Nick raised the issue of infidelity with you, correct?
Yeah.
He accused you of infidelity.
Yes.
And do you still maintain that you did not commit infidelity?
Correct. I met my husband well after we had already separated. I had not started dating my husband until July. And while that does seem fast, it is possible to find the love of your life.
Oh, let's just resonate on that for a moment. It's I don't know. Do we buy that? Is she being too defensive? Is it too pat an answer? I'm just a guy. I can't really read it as well as maybe you guys can. So you tell me.
Typical man.
I know that's me. So go ahead. What do you guys think about this first wife? And how she's talking about ending a divorce on the 15th of October, married to the new guy on the 16th.
He didn't kill her, he divorced her. That's what I think, right?
So give me your read on her. What's your take on her, Linda?
Well, I mean, if I had to my druthers, if I'm on the jury, I'm not buying it. I think that, he wanted a divorce. He said she was cheating. She gets married right after. And I'm buying his story, and I'm thinking that, hey, he did the right thing. He just got divorced. He filed a lawsuit against her. They agreed. He didn't even have an attorney, right? She got an attorney.
Well, yeah, he
didn't
have
an attorney. He just wanted out. Okay. And then there was an issue of whether Mindy lived with him. Did I hear that right, Katt? Did Mindy live with him at some point?
So Doug questions her. Did you tell GBI when you were interviewing with them that Mindy lived with you at some point? And she's like, yes, but I corrected that right after. But the question was, did the information initiate from Heather Thomas? Was it Heather Thomas telling GBI? And she's like, yes, but I corrected it. So that was really weird.
That was weird.
That was odd.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. It just to me, the fact that if she was having an affair, which he said she was, and he believed her, and he didn't kill her because we see that's always a motive. To me, that was like a point in his favor. It's like a point in his favor.
Yeah, because the state tried to set it up like perhaps because he was already trying to move on to Samantha, who's wife 3, not in the November timeframe, but later, that could have been why Mindy had to sadly go. But we didn't see that behavior demonstrated previously.
Right. And everyone said that he wasn't violent. I thought even Mindy's best friend, everyone said they never saw him being violent. Never saw him being violent or losing his temper. And I thought that was something that was in.
Yeah, there's no history of DV, and there's nobody that I've heard testify that he was anything but a lovely guy, that everybody liked him.
Too nice.
Yeah,
which can cross an extreme. I think some of the jury is wondering about like the tire gifts to Samantha. And I want to I'm traveling from Missouri to Delaware and then have a work trip somewhere else, and just let me come see you and I'll give you money for your tires. I think that could be, seen as one being a little bit too much. But just odd, maybe love bombing behavior. But does that rise to physical anything?
Yeah, I think there's definitely been evidence that he can be an asshole on a lot of levels, financially, especially. That responsibility, I'm going to convict him of that. But that's not murder. That's not dismemberment. That's not any of these other things that he's been accused of. And you went over the indictment/instructions today, which I think is going to be an interesting issue for the jury, Katt. Talk about how, there are so many counts. What is it, 12, 13? And obviously a lot of them overlap. And if you get malice murder or felony murder, the others are who cares, really. So do you envision a jury wrestling with this and saying, well, we can get him on some of these lesser counts, but we can jump over murder and felony murder?
I think the law has to be explained. And I honestly think this is a point where the prosecution needs to be more clear, because from my understanding, I'm not the lawyer, so I'll defer to you, but it seems like it'd be inconsistent to convict on malice murder and felony murder, both. Like if the jury came back and wanted to go straight down the line, wouldn't that be inconsistent to say that, yes, he acted with this intent to kill, we're finding him guilty of malice murder, but then we're also finding him guilty of felony murder because we think he committed this assault that ended in her
that led to
killing.
Her. Yeah, there could be a merger issue there, and ultimately the punishment, I think, is the same. Is that correct? Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, it would be up to life in prison. Maybe like the eligibility for parole differs, but I don't know if they'll include like a lesser included on the felony murder for voluntary. That would be a lesser maximum if they include that lesser. But that would have to be a heat of passion.
How about the fact that he had his car washed? Every prosecutor who says it's a murder, he had his car washed. Like Brian Koberger took his car washed. He had his car, car washed. He had his car washed. The implication is that he had his car washed because there was evidence, but they didn't talk about it cleaned interior-wise. They just said outside.
They honed on the mud on the tires as if he was trying not to be traced as being at that hunting ground location, is what I got from, again, that's interpreting an attorney's question, right? There was no mud on the tires. Oh, so, well, you don't want the dirt analysis to trace back to...
like there's only one muddy place in Liberty County.
And like Tracy Sands is going to actually follow up and request any soil analysis. It seems like we did a few tests and then screw everything else.
Yeah, that might be another one of those, did you test this? No. Okay.
No.
I think it's strong circumstantial, though. I'm in a position where I'm analyzing from the position of, is the state meeting their burden of proof? And, that's how I approach all trials. But if that isn't reinforced to the jurors, they could say, well, that's weird to get your car washed the same day. Although what hurts the state, I think, is they set up more bombshells than they delivered in their opening. Like, I thought that we were going to get some guy burns his car to the ground to destroy evidence so nobody can test the interior of it. And that's all really sketchy, but it ends up happening months later. And to me, it's like, I can believe that the car, maybe there was a recall, but if there wasn't, maybe he wanted to file an insurance claim. So there's an explanation for that car burning that isn't necessarily related to destroying evidence for that would relate to the death of Mindy
murder.
Kassotis or transporting a body.
You know, it really is more in line with his financial crimes that I think he's committed. You know, insurance fraud. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know.
I don't know. What about the parents? The parents seem to me that they helped him. The parents, they call it the prosecution, but to me, their testimony, as far as I was concerned, helped him in a way. I mean, because I think you've set it up. This is clearly a burden of proof case. I mean, you know, you may think he did it, you may believe he did it. Who else would have done it? Unless you believe that Mindy was also a scammer and she had somebody who was after her. You know, he's in the right area. There's a car that looks like his in the area. There's blood, even though it wasn't tested. So yeah, it looks like he did it. Who else would have done it? But does that meet the burden of proof?
Yeah. Well, good point. Let's talk a little bit about Jim McIntyre. I think that's the part I have queued up here because he is he's a ghost. Hey, there's our friend.
There he is. There's our dear.
There he is.
And you said that you also, I think you also said, and correct me if I heard this wrong, you visited that Jim McIntyre because he happened to be located near the law firm where Betsy Mebane worked, correct?
That's correct. It's downtown Savannah.
Okay. But the less convenient Jim McIntyres scattered about the country, you didn't try to visit any of those, correct?
That's correct.
See, and Doug does something very smart here. He does it with this question. He does it with a lot of questions. Your urge might be to follow up with, well, why? You know, why didn't you? But that gives the witness an opportunity to say, well, because we had so much evidence against your client that we did not need to do that. So he's very smart in not throwing that out there because it'll come back to bite you in the ass. So he just lets that hang. That, oh, you didn't do that? All right.
This is kind of random. Baby clothing purchases that you testified to. You checked his bank statements, credit cards for baby clothing purchases, right?
That's correct.
And you didn't see any there?
No.
Did you check his Amazon account?
We did not.
All right. I'm going to stop this part here. So I want to talk about this before we move on to the big finish, which I thought was very interesting and maybe didn't go the way Doug would have wanted, but interesting nonetheless. What do you think about the pregnancy, Katt?
I actually think the state is pivoting their theory in the middle of trial, trying to lean less on, oh, maybe he killed Mindy to move on to another relationship or to get away from this $1.5 million judgment, and moving more into this idea that he always wanted kids. Perhaps he was upset at seeing his first wife pregnant during the divorce proceedings, and that perhaps Mindy was pregnant around June, July 2020, early on, because there is a mention in the police interrogation, the May 2023 interview, where he says, you know, there was blood and the doctor or nurse told us that it could have been an early miscarriage. So maybe this idea of pregnancy is something. There was a pregnancy in June and July. There's a miscarriage, but the two of them keep it going. Maybe they don't want to let go of this idea, or maybe this miscarriage sends someone spiraling down. But we heard the prosecutor today mention something about a possible like stabbing or cut to the torso. And the prosecution is you know, they're not charging for a second death. There's nothing with fetus. They're firm that there was no pregnancy in the fall of 2022 by the time this happened. But they dropped some hints at perhaps there was a pregnancy or such a strong desire for Mindy to give birth to Nicholas Kassotis' kid that could have driven him mad in some way or made him angry in some way.
So then why does Doug bring up, and I wish, Doug, you're on driving, but I know you can answer this question. He said, but did he check his Amazon account, suggesting that there are purchases on the Amazon account for some kind of baby accoutrements that they didn't check? And then so the question I have, Doug, do you have to bring in purchases or at least a screenshot of the Amazon account, a la Brian Koberger with his K-bar knife, or was that just some type of thing that you were just throwing out there?
Yeah, I just let it hang. Here's yet another thing you didn't investigate. Maybe only Doug knows, but did he really know of or care about that, or did he just want to say, look, here's yet another thing that Mr. GBI you did not do? Okay,
yeah, I would say I would love to like this case, I think it's shining another light. GBI, we're outside of Fulton County, who we've heard a lot about for other cases. But now we're dealing with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. It's a statewide agency. And look, this happens outside of one county. So maybe if we think detectives, investigators don't do the job the way they should in one area, I think it's important to realize it's not constrained to just one or two areas around the country.
Yeah.
Well, I know once Doug gets a verdict, he will tell us why he asked that question, I would imagine.
Well, we're definitely going to be on him when this is over.
But he wants a mug, no matter what it is. Apparently, he wants a JSTV.
We'll give him.
Okay,
we'll pay his ransom.
Get him a mug.
Pay the mug ransom, and we'll get him back on. Okay, so here, let's go to. Let me see if I have this queued up properly, because as you know, that's always my challenge. Stand by. Let me cue this baby up. I'm very proud of myself for having learned that. I can advance the thing 5 seconds or reverse it 5 seconds. I was so dumb.
Thank you, Kay Schmidt, for Justice Serve TV membership. And Joey, Michael will be there tomorrow, expecting his cinnamon roll. Thank you very much. And Joey again, and more Joey. I did have to bring him 3 cinnamon rolls, Joey.
Okay, so here we go. This was Doug's wrap up on the cross exam of Tracy Sands. You can tell it was properly planned. It was punchy, but then was it over or was it not over? So again, let's go back to another shot. And it's not like I'm looking for shots of him like that. Every shot looks like that. Okay. Well, there we go.
You don't know where Mindy Kassotis was killed.
I do not.
You don't know where Mindy Kassotis was dismembered.
I do not.
You don't have a murder weapon.
I do not.
Okay. I have no more questions. Thank you.
Now that would be the perfect crescendo to the cross. You leave these questions and these unanswered issues right there hanging over the jury. But no, it's very important that you listen to your client, of course. And so that's...
I'm sorry. Let me just speak to my client.
Clearly, Nicholas Kassotis is very invested in the way his case is being presented. So he's got a couple of suggestions. All I can say is Mr. Kassotis' suggestions fell a little more flat than what Doug had prepared for and presented before his client asked him to follow up on a couple of things here. I don't even remember what they were. They were
the Frank for the Forest.
Oh, that's right. And who's he again? Remind us.
The son, that's the cop.
Oh, that's right. The number 4, Frank 4.
Or a set of questions. Yeah. Frank Mebane IV.
Yes, sir.
Your team spoke to him twice, correct?
That's correct.
When did you initially speak to him?
As far as the team or me?
The team.
Okay.
Thank you. No, thank you for clarifying. I don't want to be vague.
Doug is so good at that.
Detective Frost spoke with him, and then it followed up with other interviews, agents from my office, and then I actually had talked to him as well.
When did you speak to him?
It was after the preliminary hearing, much later.
When Detective Frost spoke to Frank, I'll just call him Frank the Fourth, spoke to Frank the Fourth in December. Do you recall? Well, what did you learn about that discussion that you had with Frank the Fourth?
Objection, Your Honor. He's asking him to testify about another witness's conversation with a third party.
Yeah, I'll sustain the objection.
Okay. Do you know Frank the Fourth's background?
I do.
What's his background?
He's a police officer.
How long has he been a police officer?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay. But he remains a police officer to this day, correct? As far as you know.
As far as I know, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I think that's a perfect example. What I think Doug was doing was, I am not going to end on an objection that was sustained against me. I'm just going to throw a little something else out there so that it looks like the part of the master plan.
Okay, but what should have happened, in fairness to Doug, Doug was right. He had it planned, didn't expect the client. But what you normally do, and I had this in Hernandez when we had the gun. I had the sergeant on the stand for 2 days about testing the gun and the DNA and whether it connected to Aaron. And before ended the last question, I went over to the team. Anyone have anything else? Before I asked the last crescendo question, no one had anything else. Sir, in the 3 years you had this gun, and the 37 times you tested it, and the 4 times they did DNA on it, and everyone came to look at it, did anyone ever connect that weapon to my client, Aaron Hernandez? Answer, no.
No.
Thank you.
No more questions, yes.
But so that's just a strategic mistake that was made.
And what I think is interesting, because I've been watching Kassotis' interaction here, I don't think with any other witness he had that kind of, hey, I never saw that. Did you see that, Katt, with any other witness where he was chiming in to help Doug with Cross?
So I think there were several times where
Alexa,
Doug
stand
checked.
down.
He would always check, let me ask my client. And most of the time, I think he came back and was like, no further questions.
Okay.
But I think there was one witness, but I don't remember what it was. Unless it was Alexa's talking to you.
My Alexa's talking to me because I have tomatoes in the oven. Alexa, please dismiss.
No, I will not. I will talk whenever I want
This
to.
is like the client.
It's your gym. It's your gym.
This is perfect. This is the client. Alexa.
Linda had a big finish, but Alexa had other plans.
Alexa, fuck off.
There you go.
I will tell you.
I'm sorry, I cannot do that.
Yes, no. Did you know if you?
What does she say when you do that? She said, "I'll tell you when to." Beep. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's curious.
Alexa,
the oven.
Alexa, dismiss. This is like having a client. See, this is what happens.
The finger and the Post-it note.
Okay, go ahead, Katt.
Oh, I was going to say, I think it's interesting. And we had with Frank III, Mindy's father, not Frank IV.
Right.
Doug also tried to get in this mention of Frank IV and what he does for a living. And he's a police officer. And even though Frank IV was on the witness list for Doug, we don't end up, it seems like we're not going to have any witnesses called by the defense. But we
sources are telling us that.
Sources are telling us.
Sources, yes.
Sources. But we have Nicholas Kassotis' family members. At least Wayne Kassotis is sitting behind him. It looks like Linda's sitting back there, which is Linda, his mom, not you.
Okay.
And then some other relatives that look like they have similar facial features and could be related. They're accessible, but nobody's calling them, which I think is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I've seen, you've looked at the courtroom more than I have. As I look at it, the crowd right behind defense counsel pretty sparse. And then it seems packed over on the prosecution side.
Yep.
Are you seeing that? Yeah. Not unusual either, but there's plenty of room in the courtroom.
I always hate that courtroom look. Michelle has an interesting question here. This is for you, Katt. Were Nicholas and Mindy living with Frank during the Murdoch investigation? Or Murdoch, depending on how you pronounce it. Do we know the answer?
What was the
to that?
ballpark for investigations for Murdoch?
Oh, gosh. I'd have to dredge up my notes, which I don't have.
You don't have your notes? Okay.
No,
All right, Michelle. Maybe Michelle can answer the question for us.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're Nicholas.
I didn't know there was going to be a pop quiz. I did not have my file.
No, but it's interesting. We're living with Frank for the fourth during the Murdoch investigation. Or we had this discussion yesterday because with names, some people call him Murdoch, some people call him Murdoch. His attorneys call him the wrong name. People complained, blah, blah, blah. We don't know the answer to that, Michelle. Okay.
Yeah, I'll say that Frank IV did the eviction to help the security company move along with helping Nicholas and Mindy find another place to live before Memorial Day of 2022.
Oh. So in his official capacity, he was helping them out. Is that right?
Seemingly.
Because
he worked for the sheriff's office, I believe. I forget the Yosemite County.
Yeah.
I don't remember how to say it.
So if you were the prosecution now, you're going to closing, what would be your strongest theme? And if you're Doug, what would be your strongest theme?
If I was the prosecution, I'd want to make sure, all right, this guy's guilty. I want to do my job to get justice for Mindy. I want to make sure that the jury understands the charges. I want to reiterate that there's enough to tie these specific tools, because there's 5 counts relating to tools used for the commission of a crime. And I'd want to go through each one and reiterate how, although circumstantial, how they connect to the scene. And it's just too much of a coincidence for them all to be there and for Kassotis to have access to all of these same items, so them all to show up in some way or form in this case. So I think that we're going to see a lot of the circumstantial, use your common sense type of argument. I think we're also going to see them argue that the alternative explanations that you might think, well, it's possible, I think we're going to hear them describe it as being wholly incredible. And that's going to match the jury instructions that they proposed when it comes to the credibility of a witness's story and consciousness of guilt. That would be statements from the defendant.
And you thought one of before you go into defense, you thought one of the jury instructions was very interesting. What was that today?
Oh, was it the one where they switched the language?
Right. Yes.
Oh, how did they word that?
Yeah,
on the spot, I'm going to forget.
These were the proposed instructions. We haven't seen the agreed upon.
Yep, the state's proposal. So these are what the state was choosing when you have, we have 3 choices of language we can use. I think there were 2, and one is they didn't want to use the opinion of a witness. They wanted to use testimony of a witness as the language. And then there was another example that's slipping my mind. I can't think of. Where the language that they were selecting, I expect Doug to be like, I prefer this, Your Honor. The other one that they don't want to use. So, and I hope we get to see that streamed. I would imagine that the cameras will let us see it.
Yeah. And Doug, if you're Doug, because assuming closings are Thursday, if you're Doug, what is your strongest? Where are you going?
I think Doug needs to hammer in on, they don't look at the cars going back and forth to see if Nick was also there on the 27th and 28th. We have this entomologist, this range that I think Doug successfully poked some holes in. Can we really narrow down the time that the state's proposing the body was dumped, from the time that she was killed to dumped in this hunting reserve? Can we trust the entomologist's estimated range? Because if you can get the dumping of the body after, then that's a problem. If you can get the body before, but you don't have the investigators looking to see if Nick Kassotis went there to drop the body off on the 27th, 28th, and then somebody called him and told him to do something, and he shows up in that location, well, that gives you a reason why he was there, as he admitted to, without necessarily giving him the time to have put a body there that may have already been there sooner. I think the biggest problem is you have this 3-mile spans of area, and you're not telling us where the dismemberment occurred. But if you're trying to tell us that he pulled up there and within 30 minutes dug holes, put body parts quite a distance away from each other, then walked another 650 feet and started to hide evidence, I think it's really difficult to suggest how somebody could do that in 30 minutes. And obviously the jury hasn't heard about it, but you guys opened up talking about this guy who takes the stand in this Florida case and tells you how exhausting it is to cut apart a body and needs to take breaks.
Easy. Yeah.
So that's got me thinking about this 30 minutes. Even if it was the body parts were dismembered beforehand, could
which is, to me, that's the only way it could be done. That's the only way that he could have littered the area in that short period of time, as it was already done. The tubs were already full.
But then you risk, because you don't know if there's cameras, in this area, because it is like a logging trucks and all. You risk, the more you get out of your car, the more people could possibly see you. And I think that's a really substantial risk that he could be taking. If you're saying, he's out 10 times, he's dumping here and he's dumping there. And then where is the body dismembered, and how is there no evidence in the car? And was there evidence that they took the car apart? They didn't take the car apart, right?
No, because it was months later that the car is in Pennsylvania and it's burned when he's about to close on a house with Samantha.
Right.
So, and I think, again, that this is extremely difficult, because I think this jury is going to want to get justice for Mindy, and they might see this as their only opportunity to do so. And this guy has done so many suspicious things that what would it be to say he could rise to the level of something that would actually be violent, whether or not we heard any previous stories of him being violent. But where I see maybe something in the middle, perhaps he wasn't violent. Perhaps something happened where Mindy died. She wasn't feeling well. Maybe he advised her to take some Benadryl, didn't think it would cause an issue with however she was feeling. She dies, and he goes, I'm going to hide this body. So I think, I think the jury could sit there and say, look, we don't know if he actually planned out this killing. It kind of seems more consistent with the way you pull over on the side of the road and you leave a torso right there alongside the road where you could be seen and spotted. It seems more sloppy to me and rushed than necessarily pre-planned. It seems like we have all this stuff in the house. Let's use it. And I think that's a good opportunity for the jury to compromise.
Yeah. So, and one of the things that bothered me was the whole tubs. I got a couple of those in the basement in case I ever need them.
Does your wife know? Does your wife know? Does your wife know about this? I'm not living with you.
So, but I learned, through the course of the trial that they had used these because they were moving so much that they would have these, instead of cardboard boxes, they would use these tubs to hold their belongings, making these frequent moves more convenient. It's something, I don't know if the jury buys that, but it's an explanation. It's better than, hey, never before had these tubs, got some, here's me buying them, and then they're used in connection with the dismembered and disposal of the body. All of those things, this case has so many things that the jury could cling to that could get the defendant off because they create reasonable doubt.
So let me just ask you one other question. Okay, what have you heard about the jury? Because obviously, as we know, the defense only needs one, even though you have all of these charges. The defense only needs one. Doug is coming in from out of county. He's, when we go in Prague Beach, we come in from New York to another place. We're always, we have to have local counsel. But he's coming in from out of county. Does he fit in to the jury pool? Have you heard anything about whether or not people like him? Because likability is very important for a defense attorney.
So I think that's absent. We don't have somebody in the courtroom, at least not that I've seen, that's giving cues on, hey, this is the language that I observed. And again, you can always take that with a grain of salt. But I don't think the prosecutor comes off as being from the area either. So I think, the defendants originally, I think New Hampshire is where we're settling on that he was born. I think that's a little bit of a mystery depending on the story he was telling at a point in time. But I think we've got, the defendant's an outsider himself. I would say Betsy's family is probably the closest between the South Carolina and Savannah, Georgia, moving back and forth. The family seems to have intermingled. So I don't know. If they look at Doug as being an outsider, he kind of joked about that today and embraced it. But I think the prosecutor comes out, her accent doesn't seem like a Georgian accent to me.
Yeah, only Stacey Sands sounds like he's a local dude, very local.
Well, some of the witnesses, I think, like all the hunters that came in to testify, and some of the other agents have the accent.
Those that discovered the remains, yeah. Again, very like born and bred, eastern Georgia. Yeah, is that that Liberty County? That's just a very rural area, right?
Well, I was a bit confused because at first they made it seem like it was much closer to Savannah. And I'm just bad
I think Doug said it's like 40 minutes south of Savannah.
Yeah, and it's I think because we're looking at the area relevant to the case, it looks more woodsy because we're focused in on this hunting ground. But I don't know overall about Liberty as a county. Yeah. But certainly the area that we're looking at.
Well, Hinesville is the courthouse, and anybody heard of Hinesville before this case? I don't know. It sounds like a real To Kill a Mockingbird scenario. It's kind of a small town. A lot of people know one another, and
well, that's the thing.
This doesn't happen here.
I think the only explanation that you can explain, I think it's very bad circumstantial evidence. I think it's very bad facts that you have Nick, and he admitted to it while speaking in these police interviews in 2023, going down there. And he's saying that he was instructed to go down there and meet up with Jim on the side of the road. And, what's the other? You either buy that,
yes,
or you're probably going to conclude he was there at the very least to dump the body parts.
Right. Yep. Right. And that's what I think. That's what I think is key to the case is Jim McIntyre. This ghost, this either fiction or fact, a bad guy that either existed only in the defendant's mind or was legit, and the jury could juries will do weird things.
Well, but the other thing you have is, and I didn't hear it mentioned at all today, she's dead for a while, right? He never reports her missing, right? He doesn't report.
Neither does anybody else.
Right, but he's the husband, and I think if I'm in that jury room, to me, Doug, if you're listening, the most important thing is that, I mean, look, Michael, you talk about when your wife Lisa was going to Epstein Island and the app.
Well, let's clarify that.
To do the investigation for her shows, and the app showed that she hadn't returned to the hotel, and you were crazy, you were nuts about it. If my husband were missing, if my dog were missing, right, I'd be all over the place. And I think that's something that the jury, even if it's not mentioned, can take into consideration. And to me, that's one of the biggest issues.
Well, is that weirder than, because he thinks, and he's already telling people that she's dead. So if we believe that he knows she's dead and is telling people that she's dead, he wouldn't believe that she was missing.
That's true. That's true.
But and she died in the hospital, the stroke, or whatever it was.
I think that may be the worst part of it. To me, that's the worst part, because either
you don't go and check.
Either she's missing and you don't report it, or you keep telling different people different stories about how she died. Of course, it could also go along with the fact that he knows that she's dead and it was an accident. He's trying to cover it up. But I think, Doug, I know that this is reasonable doubt, and you may not get. He may not get convicted. But if I had to say the odds are he's going to get convicted of something.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of at the, where, like, if we had a glass with water in it, I think we're filled up to the level of he's trying to conceal and get rid of the body. I think the jurors, all 12 of them, can get there.
Yeah. And so then that becomes the Scanderto scenario. Can they separate that from evidence to prove a murder?
As opposed to
I think it's hard for people to do that.
Right.
I think they're in for a penny, they're in for a pound if they find that he was involved in either the dismemberment and or the distribution of those parts. They're going to throw the murder in and get him for that too. It's tough. Okay, so here we are. Tomorrow we expect probably not a heck of a lot, right? Unless there's another prosecution witness, which is not anticipated. We've heard from our sources, Doug Weinstein, that he's not going to call any witnesses. He's done his defense case in the form of cross-examination. So they're going to have jury instruction conference, perhaps.
Doug did mention motion for directed verdict.
Yeah,
and I think there's sufficiency of evidence on the record for each of the counts, but I'm interested in the arguments.
Denied.
I'm interested in hearing the arguments. It's like a miniature presentation.
Okay. Doug's best thing: no life insurance, no murder weapon, no place of dismemberment. Right.
Ex-wife still alive.
Ex-wife still alive. But you don't have the murder weapon, you don't have the place of dismemberment, you have no one to sue him, and you have no motive with no life insurance. And those, I think, you got to.
And you have no weapon. And you have no weapon. Cause of death.
Right. And no cause of death, no weapon. And that's where you got to go. That's where you got to continue to go. And no matter how much you may think that he did it, or may be likely to do it, that whole triangle that they use in California, it's this: you can't convict him for murder beyond a reasonable doubt when you don't have the basic things that show that you are the murderer.
Yeah. Yep, you can't leapfrog over the stuff they don't have. All right, Katt. Well, we will be watching Katt Not Williams to see how this thing plays out. Thank you so much for joining us. A pleasure.
Thank you for having me. Super appreciated.
Thank you so much. So much fun.
Okay.
Take care. Know more about this case than anybody.
That's right.
Bye, guys.
Trying to drive people to it because everybody's all Adelson crazy, which is fine, but this is the perfect setup to that case because it's.
I'll be watching that as a backseat juror.
I think a lot of people will be. All right. Thanks again, Katt.
Thank
you so much, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks. And tomorrow you will be in Massachusetts with Aidan Carney's hearing.
Yeah, I'm even confused these days about, I know it's still about the discovery that has not been responded to, and there was a pending motion to dismiss. Whether that is ever addressed, it seems like every time it comes up within the context of one of these hearings, it's just pushed and ignored.
It's ignored, right? Pushed and ignored. I don't know. We'll see. But you'll be there, right? You'll absolutely be there.
I will be there.
And we will be there. We'll be on the air starting at 1. right? And hopefully
1 o'clock.
somebody will be doing the audio. I mean, if not, you're going to have to come out and give us a blow-by-blow analysis, and you're going to be doing interviews and all, and then we'll be back on the air at 6 o'clock once that finishes, after you come back out.
Yeah, so we expect, if it goes as last time, the hearing is at 2. We'll come on at 1, do a little setup. 2 to 3-ish would be my best guess for the hearing. I can't imagine it going longer than that, but who knows? Then we'll reconvene briefly just to kind of hit the high points of what happened, especially if there's nothing but audio, and I'll try to add a little color. And then we'll sign off for a few hours, come back at 6 from Dedham, and Jimmy will join as well. So
right, Auntie Deb will be joining us. So that's our plan for tomorrow. A busy day, and you better get some sleep tonight because you'll be on the road driving for another 6 hours.
Overrated.
But you know what I forgot to tell everybody? Not only follow Katt Not Williams on X, and we've given her information right there. Obviously, you haven't subscribed to her, please do that. But also, and here's my tomatoes are probably overcooked.
Go get those damn tomatoes out of the oven or the pot or whatever you cook them in.
We have over 500 people here. Please hit that subscribe button right now. It doesn't cost you anything. The like, the share, and the notify. Hopefully, we'll be back following this case on Thursday. We'll see what happens. I do expect closings and probably a Friday verdict, right?
I would think Friday would be, I think because there are 13 counts, they're going to wade through those. So I don't think it's going to be necessarily quick, but Friday I would think for sure. Yeah. All right, then. See you tomorrow from Dedham. In the meantime, I'm Michael Bryant. Try to do the right thing.
I'm Linda Michel. Subscribe, like, share, notify.
Riding flames, they charge with